So today I'm going to test both of these laptops and compare them side by side. Now this is the Acer Predator Helios 300 and this is the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. Both of these laptops are power hungry laptops since they're gaming laptops. So let's look at them in further detail. Now the Acer Predator Helios 300 has a 17-inch screen. Now this can be configured with a 15-inch screen, but for this test I have a 17-inch laptop. And what comes with this is a huge screen, which is very enjoyable to play games on and to do your work. While the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 has a 15-inch screen. Now, both of these screens are average for most gaming laptops. The refresh rates do differ. The Predator Helios 300 has a 144Hz refresh rate screen, which is great for gaming, while the IdeaPad Gaming 3 has a 120Hz refresh rate screen, which is also great for gaming. It's enough for most gamers, but the 144Hz refresh rate is still better. Now, their resolutions for the screens are the same at 1080p. Both laptops have full-size keyboards with number pads on the right side. But for my personal preference, I like the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3's keyboards more since its keys just feel better and my fingers get very sweaty when I type and I just don't feel it becoming extremely uncomfortable to type on whenever my fingers are very sweaty. But I do notice this on the Helios 300. Now their trackpads are not the best on the market. They're not force-touch trackpads, which means that you have to physically click it in order for it to register your clicks, and the clicks are registered on the bottom half, so if you click on the top it won't really register your clicks. And these are average trackpads and they do the job, but since gamers will be using a mouse, this is not a huge deal. So both of these speakers found in these laptops are average sounding speakers. For my personal thoughts, I like the IdeaPad Gaming 3 speakers more, but for casual listening to music and playing games, they're perfectly fine. So we tested both of them and here's how they sound. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. The Predator Helios 300 has a very nice feature. If you want to get the best performance out of your laptop, you have this turbo button. You have to have it plugged in to be able to use it, but once you press it, the fans start blasting at full speed and it'll help the cooling, which just gives off a better performance for your game. Before we go on to performance, we'll look at their chargers and their battery life. Now, for the Predator Helios 300, it has a huge power adapter with 330 watts. Now, this is absolutely massive. I had it put next to the machine and it was huge. Though whoever is buying a 17-inch laptop wouldn't really mind this size, but it's still humongous. The Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 has a 135-watt charger. Now this charger is smaller in capacity and size compared to the Helios 300. However, due to its smaller size, it's easier to carry around. We tested the battery life on both of these laptops. Now both of these laptops were able to play games for around 1.5 hours once they were unplugged. Now this is great to know how long you can play your games when you're out and about. To get the best performance out of these laptops, you have to plug them in. So let's talk about the port selections. Now for the Acer Predator Helios 300, on the left side we have an Ethernet port, 2 USBs, and a headphone jack. We have a mini display port, an HDMI port, another USB port, and a USB-C port. So the Predator Helios 300 has a pretty extensive port selection. Now the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 has the charging port on the left side. It also has the Ethernet port, a HDMI, and a USB-C port on the left side. On the right side, it has 2 USBs and a headphone jack. Now for the Predator Helios 300, the charging port is on the back of the laptop, which is very convenient if you have this laptop in a constant setup. Now, for what most people were waiting for, the performance on these laptops. So The Predator Helios 300 has an Intel Core i5 processor, which I did a Geekbench score with, and while the laptop was plugged in, I was able to get a single core score of around 1400 and a multi-core score of around 6000, and these were pretty good scores. Now, once I unplugged the machines, now this is when the performance dropped a lot. So the single core score was around 1000 and the multi-core score was around 4500. So it was not amazing, and this was quite shocking, but this is common for all of these high-performing gaming laptops because they need a lot of power to run these processors and GPUs, and so that's why they performed worse when they were tested on the battery. Now it also has an NVIDIA RTX 3060 graphics card, which I did test and got a score of around 90,000, which is pretty good for this laptop. But once again, when I unplugged it and did the test, it scored around 60,000. So there was a huge performance drop. It also has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. So looking at the performance of the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3, it has different components from the Predator Helios 300, but they're also pretty powerful. So it has a AMD Ryzen 5 CPU. Now this performed very similarly to the Intel Core i5, but it reached around 1300, so 1300 for single core score. When I unplugged the machine, it did plummet to around 850 or 830 for single core score, and the multi-core score was around 4000. So you can see a huge difference for these laptops when they're plugged in and when they're unplugged. Now it also has a 3050 graphics card, an NVIDIA RTX 3050 graphics card, and when I ran the test, it scored around 60,000. When I unplugged it, it had a worse score. So this just shows that there's a huge difference between playing games on battery and off battery. Now this also has 16 gigabytes of RAM, but it has a 1 terabyte SSD. Now, after looking at performance, I did test out 5 games. Now, to check out all of these games that I played, I did make separate videos of the gaming that I tested on the Predator Helios 300 and the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. So definitely check those out if you're interested in the gaming performance. But shortly, they performed very well. For all the games I was able to, I set the highest settings possible. So for Forza Horizon 5 that I tested, I set ultra settings and extreme settings and whatever I was able to set. And for the Predator, I was able to achieve around 50 FPS, but it did drop down to like 48, 49, or it went up to 60, so it performed very well. While the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 had some issues, so I set the same settings, but it ran the game around 30 to 40 FPS, which still looked great, but didn't perform nearly as well as the Predator Helios 300. Now, after testing out games, I tested out a couple of creative tasks. So for those, they had little performance differences between these two laptops. I did see in 3D rendering a minute difference between the laptops, but this is due to them having different graphics cards. So if they had the same graphics cards, they would have the same performance. So in conclusion, if you're looking for a less attracting laptop, having amazing performance, very compact, having a great keyboard, a great screen, and overall a great laptop, I would definitely choose the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. But if you're looking for a gaming machine, a workstation, I would definitely go for the Predator. Now, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video. Have a great day.